This is the Balanced Growth Show with Dr. Travis Perry, helping successful business professionals like you achieve balance in their lives.
Welcome to another episode of the Balanced Advisor podcast. I am your host, Dr. Travis Perry. Today, we have in studio with us Michael Shanahan. Michael is the co-founder and managing partner of Overland and Shanahan Wealth Advisors, a San Diego-based financial planning and wealth management firm. Over the years, Michael has won numerous industry awards, such as Investment News 40 Under 40 and the Forbes Best in State Wealth Advisor Award winner 3 times. Outside of the office, Mike enjoys golf, food and wine, and traveling with his wife, Rebecca. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Great. Thanks for having me, Travis.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your journey, your story of how you got into this industry and to where you're at right now as managing partner.
Yeah. So it's hard to believe, but going on about 21 years in the industry right now. I was pretty blessed to kind of find what I wanted to do when I grew up right out of college. I know a lot of my buddies are still trying to figure that out, but basically moved right out of college into doing financial advisory work. I had a little stint with a bank in Atlanta, and it was for a financial advisor position, quote unquote, but really was just a bank sales position, and quickly realized that and moved elsewhere. But that took me to Charlotte, North Carolina. Started working with New England Financial there, and really kind of cut my teeth in the insurance world. And honestly, it was building a great practice, having a good time there. I'm a Southern guy by nature anyway, so it was kind of nice being in the Southeast. And got a call in 2003 to form a partnership with my former partner, John Overland. And John's known my family for over 55 years. He was actually my aunt and uncle's financial advisor, my parents' financial advisor before I got into business. So that's how we got connected. But 2003, I made the move across the country and joined up with him in San Diego. So we formed a partnership there, worked together for 11 years, and he retired in 2014. And then I became the sole owner of the business at that point. And we've been in growth mode since then.
Excellent. It's always fun to hear the stories. You know, it's funny because I have a brother who saw me getting started in the industry. He's like, I want to go in the industry. What's a better route than what you did? And you know, the funny part is I said, go into banking. They will train you. They will give you all the certifications, the licenses, but just warn you, you're going to be selling bank products, right? You're selling something, product, service, wherever you start. And, you know, banking is loans. So he did really well there. But yeah, I mean, it's still a route in. And maybe it was better than starting at a life insurance company like I did. I don't know. Time will tell. Yeah. But I appreciate you sharing with us how you got in here and what you're all about. Obviously, you've done really well. You're award winner. You've built a company. You have about 17 total, right? Working with you?
With seven employees. 17 members, yep.
So, and you know, you've built a company that has really been built around delegation, productivity, helping your clients. We talked a little bit about this in the pre-show. Well, why don't you describe to our listeners here today, what has been the success of your scaling to this point?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about delegation and scaling, and that certainly was super hard for me. I don't want anybody to think that it was just easy right off the bat. I'm very much a type A personality, have to have control. But, you know, what happened was during the growth phase, when we started to have that substantial growth, there was just no way to be able to do it all without delegating, without hiring more team members to be able to take on some additional responsibilities and tasks that I just quite frankly couldn't fit in a 24-hour day. So it's been a huge learning process for me. And, again, something that just certainly didn't come naturally at all, but was just kind of forced into it because of the growth we were having. And we were having that growth really in two manners. We were having it both organically and inorganically. Organically, just a lot of the work that we'd put in forming relationships with centers of influence was starting to pay off. And we were getting a fair amount of consistent referrals. But then also, we were having opportunities to make some acquisitions, to acquire some retiring advisors' practices, and that just really forced us to grow quickly and add team members and learn how to scale at a very rapid pace. So it was kind of trial by fire. We didn't do it perfectly right out the gate, but we made some mistakes along the way, learned from those mistakes, and then made sure that we didn't repeat them. So, it wasn't super smooth from the get-go, but fortunately, we've survived, and we're here to tell the story on the other side.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about growing the firm this way. Acquisitions can be a very profitable way of growing. What were some of the pitfalls? What were some of the mistakes that you made while you were doing acquisitions? You say, man, I wish I never did that. Let's go back and rewrite that one. Why don't you pull back the curtain on that a little bit? Yeah,
no, 100%. And so I'd say the first one we did, it was, it just made me realize where your vulnerabilities are. When you're trying to scale at that size, then what you're not doing right certainly comes to the surface. And for us, it was part of the process of integrating, onboarding a client. And specifically, from an acquisition, not just a new client that we got organically, but when you get a batch of new clients, you really have to streamline things. You got to have your processes in place. And we didn't do that the first time. We definitely didn't have those in place the first time. So I think that was the biggest lesson learned from our first acquisition was, hey, this is great. We're bringing on all these other clients, but we've got to have these processes streamlined for us to be able to take on 20, 30, 40, 60 additional households in one fell swoop. And I'd say the other thing on top of the processes needing to have that was needing to have the team members. Like, you got to be ready to actually physically take those people on. You can't wait until after the acquisition started, because it's just, quite frankly, too late. You can't get somebody in there, train them up, and have them adequately knowledgeable in their role, in the whole process. So those are probably the two biggest things that I realized after our first acquisition that we needed to improve on. And thankfully, we started to fix that every time. We got better and better the more acquisitions we did. So it was certainly something where, we learned a lot each time we did it, and made sure that we took some time to step back and reflect on those acquisitions and say, all right, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? Where are some areas to improve on? What can we do with our process to tweak it a little bit so that we can make this smooth the next time we do it? And it was that constant kind of evaluation process each time we did it that's really got us to the point to where we are now, where we can absorb a solid practice at any point in time, because we've got the process in place now.
Very valuable. Talking about processes and systems, what would you say one of the most vital or helpful process through the acquisition phase that allowed you to scale and grow?
Gosh, it was really just, I would say it was putting everything down on paper, and not really just trying to wing it each time. So, we ended up with templates, letter templates. We ended up knowing exactly, the time frame that it took to transfer these accounts over under our management, all these little things, so that we could literally have a step-by-step timeline of what the acquisition was going to unfold like. We knew very, very well what that was going to play out like. So I think that was probably the biggest thing, is really just taking the time to reflect, put it down on paper, and then make sure that, we stick with it, not trying to recreate the wheel, because we got a pretty solid process now that, again, wasn't created overnight, but by trial and error, going through this process a number of times and figuring out what we did well, what we didn't, and revisiting that on a regular basis.
Yeah, this reflection that you're doing, this business development, essentially, you involved your team members, you involved your staff, or is it just high level? Was it everyone? How did you structure that?
Yeah, no, it was everyone, because everyone had a different role to play. And it literally was, hey, what did we do well? What did we not? Where were your pain points? What were some areas that you feel like we as a group can improve on? And then also in your area, just microscopically, what can we do to that part of the process to just make it better? So nice. Definitely it was a team exercise. And, as our team's grown and grown, it's actually, it's made it easier to do all that stuff. Honestly, I mean, as tough as it was for me to delegate at the get-go, now I really see the benefits of that. And by adding more team members, not only has it given us more capacity to take on additional acquisitions in the future, but also everybody's just got a much more focused role. So they're not having to do too terribly much throughout that process and can really execute at a high level.
Yeah. Great advice, especially for those who maybe haven't been through acquisition or merger. It's good to hear that there's been success in that direction. So you're growing your firm, acquiring others, and struggling with balance. Tell us, what does balance mean to you? What is a good definition? If I was actually to help you start this and say, all right, balance for you is fill in the blank, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say it's really being able to do the things that you enjoy outside of work alongside work and not feeling too overwhelmed or too stressed to where you can't enjoy either of those sides. It's funny because the whole work-life balance, I find that kind of a difficult phrase sometimes, because it almost makes me think of 50-50, right? And like, I don't know that's necessarily my definition. And I feel like everybody has their own definition as to how they see balance in their work life areas. But for me, it's more harmony. How can we have our work life and our home life, our personal life, working together in harmony, whether that's a 60-40 split, 70-30, whatever it may be. That's my definition, and trying to continually develop what that definition is certainly one of my goals. Because as you mentioned, I have struggled with that, trying to find balance. I'm a workaholic by nature and try and take on more than I probably should. So, that's something that I constantly try and work on myself. And, but back to the team, I would say that one area that I feel has really helped me in getting closer to achieving my ideal harmony would be adding more team members. I mean, it was just one of those things that was really scary for me initially, but as we've done it more and more, and as I've trusted my team more and more, it's given me additional time back that I can utilize for, personal health, exercise, travel, just taking time to go play golf, take a Friday off or something, just to not think about work for a couple hours. And, I definitely couldn't do that without the team behind me.
Yeah, I would say what you're saying here is that you want to have a harmony or a balance between those things you like to do outside of work and inside of work. I 100% agree with you. I found that advisors say it's doing those most important things in life. When they know those things are being taken care of, work is even better, because typically work is not one of them. They enjoy it.
Yep.
And I think that's part of the workaholic trap, isn't it?
Yep.
If you didn't enjoy what you did, you likely wouldn't be tempted to stay longer at work. You can keep working with clients and helping them. So that's definitely an issue. But I also agree with you. It's not a 50-50 split. My book, for example, we don't talk work-life balance. It's balance in every area of life. Mm-hmm. Work happens to be one of those areas. It does take a lot of time, but It doesn't mean that it is number one. So I love that you mentioned that. So you're trying to scale, you're trying to grow this business, and you said you're a workaholic by nature. Let's focus on that a little bit. Because I want to see, what is it you're really struggling with specifically while you're trying to scale and grow without, losing this sense of balance.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it was really, the control aspect, right? So like having to feel like I needed to be on top of every single detail or item that we were working on at that point in time. And, if you take that approach, you're going to have too much to do. You're going to be overoccupied by trying to revisit all those tasks versus being able to, to delegate some of those responsibilities to team members that you trust. And so that's been probably my biggest struggle, from the get-go. I mean, honestly, just from even starting in this business 21 years ago, we talked about it growing up in the life insurance world at that point in time. I mean, they give you a phone book and say, go get some appointments and good luck. And I mean, you don't have any administrative staff to fill out paperwork or anything like that. You're doing everything on your own. And that's how I got into this business. That's how I grew up in this business. And I feel like it just kind of stuck, because they didn't teach you how to grow into a team, how to manage and run a team. It's all something you have to learn on the fly. And it's not an easy process to learn if it doesn't come to you by nature.
Do you think the industry has some responsibility here? Do you think that they are maybe creating workaholics by how we enter, especially through the life insurance focused method of basically you're a salesperson. So you go and kill it. But by the way, you've got to clean it.
Yep.
And then you have to cook it. And then you got to go out and kill it again.
Yep.
I think that model, number one, there's lots of issues with the model. You don't have a service model if all you're doing is out there finding business, right?
Yeah.
Or you get to the point where your book is big enough that you can just switch to service and then you're not growing. And how can you be comprehensive? How can you expand when you're doing everything? So let's talk about that for a second, because I think the industry is to blame. I'll be fully transparent.
Yep.
I came from the same route and I experienced exactly the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, because it's that mentality, right? You mentioned it, they eat what you kill, but then also you brought up the good point. You got to clean it and you got to cook it and you got to do all that. But it's ingrained in you. And when you do it, I feel like long enough, it becomes a habit. It's like, it's something that's just literally a part of your being. So yeah, I definitely agree that the industry was a part of it. And you mentioned it, there's a lot of things wrong with that type of approach. It is what it is, but the good news is it's really not that way anymore. And it's just not a feasible way that it could occur anyway. When was the last time you saw a phone book, right? So I mean, you couldn't give anybody a phone book because you can't find one. Who has a home phone number now, right? So it's just kind of funny. I mean, things have evolved, and and the industry has evolved, and I think in a positive manner, which will certainly impact a lot of the younger advisors getting into the business now over the past couple of years. But to your point, I mean, the industry has created folks like myself or those who have been in longer where that was how we started. That's our mentality. And now we're kind of that workaholic by not even nature, I guess you're right, but by requirement.
Nurture.
By nurture, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, well, and I think, if we look at human development, we're always asking the question, is this nature? Is this nurture? Were we born this way? Did we learn it at a very early age? And I think that's what you were mentioning. You feel like it was by nature because it happened so early on, became ingrained.
Yep.
And I define this as the workaholic trap that you just slipped slowly into. And soon you realize, I'm kind of stuck here. Even if you're able to be successful at your business, you can't find a way to do those important things in your life because you don't have time.
Yep.
So for you, one thing that really freed up your time was hiring and growing your internal team. Give us some, ideas, some creative ways that maybe you've gone about building your team? Because I know this is an issue. Literally every advisor I've ever talked to struggles with this issue right here.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
Yeah. So, gosh, it's tough. I mean, we just had to hire another team member not too long ago. And I mean, it's just a difficult hiring world out there, period. But, a couple of things we've done, which I thought was very beneficial to us over the years is we've had an intern program. So, we've tried to have at least one intern from San Diego State University join us. And we've had some really good success in adding folks as interns. And actually one on our team right now, he just recently last year got his CFP designation. He got all of his licenses, and he's been with us since he was an intern. Now he's our financial planning associate and a client service associate. So it's been nice to kind of have him from such a young experience level, if you will, and then be able to have him grow with our firm as we've grown. But another way too, I think, as we mentioned the acquisitions, we've got one team member who has joined us as a result of that acquisition. So we absorbed her with one of our acquisitions that we did in 2020, and that's worked out really, really well. I mean, she is a phenomenal worker. She does a great job at everything she does, detail oriented, great at follow up. So that was another way that we found talent, was fortunately through the acquisition. So I think those are really two ways that have worked for us. And just to add on to our office manager, and she's been with us for a long time. I mean, she's been with us now, I think 13 years. So it's been a long, long time for her. So it's been great from that perspective.
Yeah, I like this. I mean, I started as an intern when I was in life insurance, and I saw those who maybe weren't as great out in the field became a really great support staff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And maybe later have become advisors, or even vice versa. And so I think it's a marvelous way of doing it. And through acquisition, there's an opportunity there as well. That's a great idea as well. Tenure in this business is tough. People jump around, mm-hmm. and they get burnt out or they get tired of a position. So this furthering and developing is a great long-term plan, I think, for your firm and for others to know that, hey, let's start here, but there's room for improvement. There's places you can go with the company.
Yep. Yeah.
What do
100%.
you see out in the industry? Because, you're involved in the industry. Mm-hmm. You've seen other advisors, you rub shoulders with friends who struggle. What are some of their biggest issues as they're trying to grow and keep their balance?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really a lot of the things that we've hit on already. It's the inability to peel yourself back from the responsibility levels out there and delegate that to team members, which then goes back to hiring. How do you hire properly? Who do you hire? For what role? What responsibilities are they going to have? So, and really kind of formulating what your firm is going to look like, I think, too, is another issue that really involves all those other ones we just mentioned. So, I think that's probably one of the biggest difficulties. And the other thing, too, is we've been talking about it a lot, especially here in Southern California. It costs a lot to live. Well, it also costs a lot to hire somebody, because they're going to have to require a certain dollar amount to actually, live their life. And so it's not inexpensive to bring on somebody at all. So I think just kind of wrestling with those issues there in combination is really, it brings some advisors just to a halt, and they say, you know what, I can't figure out one or all these solutions. So I'm just going to keep moving like I am. Inertia takes over. Right. So yeah. I think that's one of the issues.
So they may even give up on the process, say, yep. Forget it.
Yep.
I'm okay where I'm at. Maybe even justify it's okay if I'm not growing and building a team. And I get it. Some people don't ever want employees. They want to be solo, but there's no growth. It's very difficult to scale if you don't build a team.
That's it.
Yeah, it's a really great point. Talking about this concept, building a team and seeing the success you've had that has enabled you to have better balance, even though you still struggle with it, right? We all do.
Yep.
What might be some advice you would give to other advisors in the industry, how to scale and keep that balance?
Yeah, I think really you gotta kind of plan with the end in mind, I believe. And what I mean by that is where do you really see your firm in 5 years, 10 years? What does that look like? How many clients are you going to have? What's going to be your revenue? Then from there, you can kind of go backwards and look at it and say, okay, well, what team members am I going to need to have to fill those roles? And what is my responsibility going to be? How much do I want to be involved? But when you paint that kind of picture, it makes it a little more clear as far as where you're going. I know that was a great exercise for me. I even started to write out, descriptions for each of those jobs, those team members who would be filling a certain role. And it just really helped me kind of crystallize what things were going to look like, who we needed. And then once I had that in my mind and could kind of see where the firm was headed, it certainly made a lot of those other decisions just really come into play. Like, are we going to actually go through with this acquisition? Are we going to buy this book? How does it help get us to that point that I envision in the next several years? So, it's hard to also, I think, to step back and really have that kind of introspective planning moment, because so many of us just get so caught up with the day-to-day working in our business. It's hard to take that time to actually work on it and think about where you want to be. So that really helped me out a lot in making me feel like where we're going, how does the firm look? Where are we going to go? And then here are the team members I need to fulfill that vision.
It's great. I really appreciate these concepts. I'm going to ask one last follow-up question to this, Michael, and that is, when you were working on the business, were you in the office? Were you in a retreat, conference? Did you just go home? Was this a nightly, weekly thing? What works and has worked for you to work on the business?
Yeah, it's been a combination of all that, actually, because I feel like when I go to the conferences, you just get so much thrown at you and you're networking with a lot of folks and you get a lot of great ideas, and I jot them all down, keep them in a file. And then typically, just take all that information back. And then, I'm reviewing it at night, usually when I have some downtime or on the weekend or on a plane even. That's actually where I've done a lot of my on the business work is on a plane, because you're stuck there. You can't really do a whole heck of a lot, watch a movie or something of that nature. But that's where I did a lot of that kind of design work, if you will, the working on the business. So really just a combination of things, but, I would do it whenever I was feeling fresh and kind of energized. And, it wasn't just a one-time event, it was like, it was evolving, it was over several sessions, if you will.
Oh, great advice. I appreciate you pulling back the curtain and kind of showing us a little bit about you, your business. And if advisors want to reach out to you and talk to you more, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, email's the best way. They can get my contact info from our website, which is overlandshanahan.com. And my email's michael.shanahan@lpl.com, but that's definitely the best way. Always happy to chat with others in the industry. I love bouncing ideas back and forth. And, it's really, really fun pastime for me. So definitely encourage anybody to reach out if they'd like to chat a little more.
Appreciate this. Appreciate you giving back to this community, to this industry. All the best to you. If you've enjoyed this, listeners, you've had a great time listening to Michael, obviously taking the things he said, go work on the business, take these notes, go on an airplane ride next time you're on a trip, jot them down, find out what it is you're going to change. Maybe it's that job description that you need to be doing. Maybe it's, getting out more to do the things you really enjoy because you're tired of being a workaholic, right? What is it that you need to take away? Definitely like, share, subscribe. Also, just a plug for the book, Achieving Balance. Yes, we're working on balanced growth, but if you go to my website now, travisperry.com with an A, we still have the $25 deal for the book in all its editions. Again, travisperry.com. Thanks, Michael, for being here with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And remember, everyone, live life on purpose.